You saw the title, I read your answers and messages, here's exactly why you're still a Brokie. Now, is there any shame in being a Brokie? No, I've been there. Guys, the things that I did when I was broke. We're gonna be all talking about it today. I have a lot of story for you guys, but I'm gonna be breaking up this video into 3 segments. First of all, my financial story, my journey to financial freedom. Second, I'm going to be talking about the mentality of being broke versus the mentality of being wealthy. And lastly, I'm going to give you guys advice as to how you are going to get out of your brokenness. That's going to be at the end of the video, so definitely stay tuned. But without talking too much, I'm going to jump right into my story. So a lot of you guys are new here and you don't know this, but I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my life. I'm going to link my full story down below just so that you guys can go check it out so you can get caught up on this. But a little summary, I grew up very wealthy, okay? I was very blessed and I had the opportunity to travel around the world and be at many international schools. And that's where I actually learned a lot about being wealthy, and I learned how these people moved and functioned, which I truly believe is one of the reasons why I was able to get out of the homelessness I was in when I was 18. If you don't know about that, a little summary as well. Unfortunately, I was not able to finish my last year of high school because I couldn't pay the tuition. And I was separated from my family at the time, and I really had 2 choices to either A, go back to the country where my family resided at the time, or stay in America. And I am an American citizen, so that's what I chose to do. That also meant that I had to build myself back from the ground up. So yeah, I was sleeping in my friend's college dorm room. I literally had nothing going for me until I picked up my phone and started filming. That was kind of my start to becoming very bold and unapologetic. I was doing everything I could to get money. I was applying to so many jobs. I was walking into car dealerships, family-owned businesses, all of these places asking if they were looking for spokespersons because that was something I knew that I was good at. You know, with my social media on the rise, I began to see what my talent really was, and I immediately thought of profiting off of that because when you have nothing, that's the best thing you do. It's just take what you're good at and try to develop it into a stream of income, but I'm going to explain a little bit more about that at the end of the video. So obviously, I will put this out there, I'm still not where I want to be yet. I still don't have a fucking Bentley, Mercedes, and Rolls Royce sitting in my backyard. So that's definitely something that I am working towards. I want to be that. But when I say financially free, I mean in terms of I don't gotta clock in like many of you brokies gotta do. I'm just kidding. Again, I've been there. Am I shitting on you guys just for the fun of it? Yeah. As I was doing this, I was also getting up my public speaking. That was something that I did throughout my high school and wanted to pick back up again. So I would literally stand in buttfuck nowhere as long as I was in public. I would just speak. I would talk about God. I would talk about my journey. I would give motivation. While I was all doing this, I was still pretty much quite broke. Like, I was doing all this for free. And that's another misconception that a lot of you guys seem to have about social media. Views do not equal money. I do want to make that very clear for anybody who's thinking about getting into content creation. Do not expect to get rich off the bat. Thank goodness I didn't get discouraged by that. I remember, thinking to myself, okay, so I got this many followers when I'm still a fucking brokie. That was because I didn't really understand how to monetize myself, and I was relying fully off of social media to give me a buck, which was definitely not working. One thing I do want to talk about was that during this time, I still was a little bit stuck up. I refused to take any brand deals. If you've watched me for a long time, you know that I talk about this from time to time. I'm very, very picky about brand deals. I don't just like to promote anything on my page. Not only do I feel like it kind of ruins my aura, I'm not gonna lie, I also care a lot about telling you guys the full truth and only truth. And if I don't feel as if something is actually beneficial, I'm not gonna promote it just because I'm not going to use my followers to do that. A lot of you guys have been with me since I was really from zero, so I'm not gonna turn around and do y'all like that. But yeah, so the biggest question, how did I start growing financially free? How was I able to say fuck you to a job? I'm gonna go back a little bit in time to my days in high school, and I used to give advice to a lot of my friends, and there was one friend specifically. He may be watching this, he may be not, but I remember he approached me with a problem, and he was really hooked up on this girl. He adored this girl inside and out, but he wasn't doing so well himself outside of that. He was a little bit chubby, a little bit overweight, and I remember he got on call with me this one time. He's like, I just don't know what to do. I love her, but I know she's playing around with me. And I remember giving this guy advice, and I was like, dude, just lock the fuck in, lose the weight, forget the girl. Like, I know this is gonna sound very boyish for a second, but when I start giving people motivation, you guys may have noticed this about me, I get very aggressive, I get very masculine. That's something that I do know, but I think that's because I had to be masculine to get out of a lot of the shit that I was going through. And that's how I bring motivation to others. And obviously it worked. This guy took 8 months, lost all the weight, got up in his volleyball. And I remember the conversation that we had after he lost all the weight and after he got into the varsity team in volleyball. And he was just so proud of himself. And he's like, Victoria, you genuinely saved me. Your advice genuinely saved me. And if you give this advice to others, imagine the amount of people you would save. You can make a living out of this. And those were the exact words that rung in my head, you know, as I was deep in my financial struggle with social media and still trying to get people to allow me to speak for them, for their businesses. And I thought about that and I was like, holy shit, like, you know, I could help people and I could help myself in the meantime. I'm going to be quite frank with y'all. I do sell coaching, but the testimonies that I have had throughout my coaching and even throughout my friends was something that made me confident enough to do that. And trust me, like, I'm going to be so transparent with you guys in this video. It was hard for me to get past that first stage. It started off with me selling an hour call for like $5 because I just didn't have the confidence in myself to do something like that. I was like, well, you know, like, I feel like it's wrong. I feel like I shouldn't be charging people for advice. But I had to realize, one, it was really fucking hard to control like all of the influx of clients that was coming in. But most importantly, I couldn't be as attentive to the best of my ability because I was trying to juggle all of these things. So slowly, as the demand rose, I began to rise the price as well. Along with that, and it was the craziest thing, the quality of my coaching began to rise. I had the energy to genuinely focus on each and every one of my clients. Before, I was coming late to calls, I had to reschedule, I was responding late to messages because I simply just had too many people on my hands. I was losing myself throughout the process and I was not coaching to the best of my ability. And my clients obviously were able to feel that. After I became confident enough to be like, no, I know what I am worth. I've seen what my coaching and what my advice has done for others' lives. And I do want to add this, maybe you are thinking about getting into coaching or giving people advice as well. So I want you to be aware of this beforehand. Don't accept anybody. That was another learning curve I had to go through. When I first started, I was accepting everybody. I was like, I don't care who the fuck you are. You know, I'm gonna coach you. And I realized a lot of people want the privilege of being led and guided through their journey, which is 100% understandable, but not everybody is willing to go all in into their journey. Huge learning curve of mine. I definitely learned to be much more picky and choosy with who I decided was going to be a client fit for me and who was going to be fit for my coaching personally. And of course, I always recommended them to different content creators that I had been mentored by or I have worked with if it wasn't going to work out with me. But yeah, that is just how I was able to say fuck you to the traditional 9-to-5 or traditional job. And I was able to actually do what I love, which is helping you guys. So yeah, now that's out the way, I do want to talk about the mentality between being broke and being rich. And it's going to leak on a little bit from what I discussed a couple moments ago, but the mentality of being broke is, one, there's a lot of overthinking involved. Too much thinking, not enough doing. A lot of you guys are not broke because you're stupid. You're broke because you're actually too smart. So you overthink everything to the point where you end up not making a single decision. That was definitely a problem of mine. Like I explained, I was overthinking before starting my coaching. I was like, what if I'm not ready? What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm gonna give the wrong advice or I can't speak well or people are gonna get mad? Like, no, I just had to do it. And I had to learn along the way. But at least I was learning something, because when you're just overthinking and you're sitting back and you're allowing all these thoughts to consume you without doing a thing, you get nothing done. Again, I went through a lot of ups and downs, but I would choose that any day. The confusion, stress, I would choose that any day over just sitting back and doing absolutely nothing with the talent that I knew I had. I knew I was good at giving advice. I knew that I cared about others. I knew I was good at speaking. But if I had just sat back and allowed my doubts to consume me, I would have learned nothing. And that to me is the saddest thing of all. Now, another thing on the mentality of a broke person, a lot of broke people are more arrogant than wealthy people in a sense that they act as if they have the most to lose. Now, I don't mean this harshly. Obviously, I was using a twist on words there, but a lot of you guys act as if you have some like 7-figure business to lose, when in reality, you got close to zero in your bank account. If that's the case, you should have absolutely no shame. You should be knocking on doors. You should be posting 7 videos a day like I was. Okay, you should be going absolutely insane over this because you're not really in a position to be acting all that. You're gonna look a little stupid. I definitely did. Trust me. Trust me. I got a lot of weird looks during that time. Walking in, saying, "Do you guys need a spokesperson?" Yeah, no, I got a lot of weird looks, some that are ingrained into my brain. But you know what? I literally had nothing to lose, and that's all I could think about. You gotta get rid of the mindset that there is morality in being broke, or there is dignity in being broke. Because for me, I had to realize, and for a lot of you guys, you have to realize that there's nothing more embarrassing than being broke, especially with all the talents you have. A lot of you guys are so talented. A lot of you guys are so blessed by God, and you're doing nothing with it. Nothing. That is embarrassing. And I'm trying to be nice here, but I need you guys to hear this. There is absolutely no shame in being ruthless when it comes to building yourself from the ground up. That's exactly what I had to be. Again, you'll hear it in my voice when I speak. That's why I'm so aggressive when I speak. I had to be ruthless. And you should not shy away from doing that at all. If you do, you will continue to suffer from the consequences. Trust me when I say this. Now I want to talk about the mentality of a wealthy person. Here's what a wealthy person understands. They understand that there is something that they are already good at. Now, what they do, they're going to use that and create a stream of income from that. A big problem that we have nowadays, especially with social media, is that we are being overloaded with all this crypto, trading, this, that. You just got to stick to one thing that you know that you're good at. Don't allow all the noise to distract you. Narrow down on that one thing. Zoom in on that one thing. Learn everything you can about that one thing. That is the smartest thing that you can do for yourself. Another thing that someone who's wealthy understands, and by the way, to clarify again, a lot of this is what I learned during my time in international school, and nowadays this is what I learned being around a lot of wealthy people, my mentors as well. Wealthy people, they are very exclusive with who they hang out with. You guys have heard me say this multiple times, but it's really not a fucking joke, because if I was hanging around with the wrong people as I was building myself from the ground up, I would not be talking to you guys right now. I would definitely not be in the financial state I am right now if I listened to people who were simply not who I wanted to be, and it was hard. Trust me, it was hard. I had to let go of a lot of people, even relatives. Relatives that I dearly loved. I couldn't stand being on the phone with them, because once you see that, once you realize how a broke person speaks about themselves, or how a broke person moves versus how a wealthy person speaks about themselves and moves, you're not going to want to be on this side. Trust me when I say this. It's going to become almost repulsive to you in some sense, and people are going to say this sounds classist, but no, again, I've been there, but I didn't want to stay there. And a lot of these people, they want you to stay there. So you have to distance yourself, and you have to keep a healthy sort of relationship, but you also have to realize if you don't separate yourselves from them, you will become like them. And it's better to be alone than with the wrong crowd. I talked about this too on my page at some point, but I used to look at wealthy people who did this, who were very curt with their time and very straightforward with whether or not they wanted to hang out with you. I used to look at these people and be like, oh, you're just stuck up. I thought this all throughout my time in high school until I was broke and then had to build myself from the ground up. Then I understood it, because some people are simply just a waste of time. Some people are simply just a waste of energy, and even if you're not rich yet, You don't have to be hanging around these, I'm not going to say broke people. I want to switch the words. Broke-minded people, because it's going to keep you stuck. And now, after building myself from the ground up, I'm able to look back and understand why these wealthy people would literally just get up and say, you're not worth my time, and leave. Because sometimes that's what you got to do. Maybe not physically, but you got to do that mentally. Another thing that I do definitely want to clear up before moving on from this subject, your journey to financial freedom is not going to be fucking easy. Even after you do reach some state of financial freedom, it's still not going to be fucking easy. The wealthy people I still hang around now, my mentors, my friends who have businesses, constantly on their phone or constantly awake. You can text them at like 3 a.m. They're going to get back to you in like 1 hour max. That is the thing. I think that social media has convinced us into believing that now that you got this 7-figure business going on, or you got like 7 streams of income, you're going to be able to do whatever you want with your time and you can just sit back and relax. I would actually argue the busiest people I have seen, the ones who are constantly awake, constantly on their phone, are the people who are wealthy. This is something that obviously, again, I grew up with. My dad was always constantly on his phone, even when he took his family out for dinner. Always taking business calls, always having to leave the table. I know that a lot of international kids, wealthy kids, can relate to this. Maybe if you're watching this and you are wealthy, you can definitely relate to this. This is also, I do want to add this, why a lot of wealthy kids have issues, because their parents are not 100% there all the time. So I do want to clear that up. A lot of people wonder to themselves, well, you're rich and how could you have all these problems? Well, I do want to add that. But yeah, no, do not think that once you're wealthy or once you're a little bit financially free, or just because you don't have a job, do not think that things are going to be easier, especially if you're going to be an entrepreneur. It is like 80-hour work weeks, no questions asked. And obviously, once you get a little bit better at it and you're able to hire multiple people, your hands are going to be a little bit free. But you're still going to be constantly on that phone. You're still going to be constantly thinking in your mind about the next big idea. There is really no rest, and I do want to put that out there. Now, lastly, the part that you guys have all been waiting for, how are you going to change that number 0 in your bank account? First and foremost, if you actually have the number 0 in your bank account, you need to get a fucking job, dude. I'm sorry. I know this is not what you want to hear. You got to get a fucking job. You got to make some money in the meantime. You know, obviously, do not be set in stone on this job. I know that when I was working at the job that I was working at, I was like standing there and I was like, I didn't want to be there. But I used that 9 to 5. It wasn't really a 9 to 5, but I used that 9 to 5 to fund my 5 to 9. That's where you need to start at. So I really don't care what job that's going to be, Taco Bell, or maybe it's going to be an even better job than that, but you need to get a job first. Now, all of that money that you're going to be making from that job, do not waste it buying stupid shit, okay? As somebody who grew up in wealth, I had a huge urge to do that. I wanted to buy all these nice things. I wanted to buy all these clothes, and I'm a girl too. So double whammy, right? No, don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do for yourself. All of that money you make from that job, unless you need to obviously pay rent, food, whatever, only essentials, needs to be going into your business. What is your business going to be? It's going to be what you are already good at. And I don't care who you are. There is something that you're already good at. There is something that nobody else can do like you do. There is something that makes you unlike anybody else. You need to figure out what that one thing is, and you need to double down on it. Ask your friends, what am I good at? Ask them what makes you stand out. And you're going to use that and sell it to others. And you're going to realize this: people will pay for anything that they don't already possess. And chances are, the thing that you possess and are really good at, there is a business you can make out of that. You guys just need to realize this. Like, a lot of you guys, again, like, social media makes you think that the only way you're going to get rich is by getting into crypto, getting into trading, Bitcoin, meme coin. I don't really fucking know what they're coming up with nowadays. No, that's all a distraction. You need to focus on the one thing that you're already good at, and you need to figure out how to profit off of that, how to sell to others. That's another thing I will add. learn how to sell. Watch Jeremy Myers, watch Iman Ghadzi. They have very, very good videos, extremely good videos. I would watch these people all the time. So I'm definitely going to link some of my favorite videos from them in the description. But yeah, learn how to sell and learn how to sell your own product or service. Best thing you can do. Now, I will add this. I had a little bit of a boost because I had content creation, and that definitely made things a lot easier for me. I was able to reach a lot more people a lot farther. If you can do that, perfect. If not, don't worry about it. Sometimes you just got to start door to door like I did. Sometimes that's what it takes. And again, remember, there's no shame in doing that. You got to get dirty. You're going to get your hands dirty. You're going to look stupid. But again, do not feel embarrassed, because the most embarrassing thing you can do is be broke but have all this talent. So maybe you're really fit. Maybe you're good at speaking like I am. Maybe you're very, very smart. There is a way that you can profit off of all of these things, and you're going to love doing it. Guess why? Because you're already good at it. Don't get caught up in the do what makes the most money. That is the worst thing you can do for yourself, because you're going to end up resenting it, and your income's going to be capped. Right? But when you love doing something, and when you're good at something, trust me, you're going to love doing it, right? It's going to be an overflow. It's going to keep coming. But bottom line, do what you're good at. Don't do what makes the most money. Don't do what you love. Do what you're already good at. Because you do it for long enough, the rewards are going to come through, and you're going to love it. It's like when you figure out how to finally do math, right? You start to love it. Bottom line, first, get a fucking job. Fill out that application, cry a little, tissues here and there, I know. Then you're going to use all the money that you make from there to fund what you're good at. You're going to double down on what you're good at. You're going to become so good at it. You're going to become the best in your fucking neighborhood. You are going to figure out how to sell a product or a service out of that. From there, you're going to create another stream of income besides your job. And your main goal, put all your energy into this until you make it far enough to the point you don't really necessarily need this job. When you're able to do that, you are going to focus all the energy that you had, half of the energy that you had on your job, you're going to place it into this. And the more and more you go through it, trust me, the more and more you're going to figure out, the more and more you're going to have ideas, the more and more you're going to realize, oh, I can add this, I can add this. Now I can bring someone in who's good at this. It is going to become inevitable that you're going to be able to start some sort of business off of that. And that is what it means to be an entrepreneur. Now, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, when is it safe to leave my job, Victoria? So I'm gonna be real with you guys. I left my job when I was probably really not fucking supposed to. I took a really big risk, but that's how I am personally. I know that I work best under pressure. Did I suffer a bit? Abso-fucking-lutely. Would I suggest it to anyone? Yes and no, depending on the type of person you are. But generally, you should leave your job when you are making the same or more as you are making on your separate business. Before then, it is a huge risk. Again, that's what I did. That's how I work best. But honestly, to most of you guys, I would not suggest that, just because I don't want to be responsible for you guys becoming homeless, and I wouldn't want you guys to experience that like I leave your job when you are making the same amount of income in comparison to your business. Another thing I want to add, you kids in school, stay the fucking school. Stay the fucking school. Just because I didn't get to finish school does not mean that you should be dropping out of that shit. If you have the opportunity to be in school, stay your ass in there. It is what you do with your time when you are in school or college, okay? That is going to dictate how successful you're going to be when you do have the opportunity to leave college or school. Okay, it's not the fact that you're in college that makes you broke. No, it's who you surround yourself with and what you do with your time. So think of it as your nice big older sister, your kind of asshole older sister, telling you, stay your ass in school, but spend your time and energy wisely. That way, you also have a rebound. You have to think about it like this. If this doesn't work out, God forbid, and I don't believe that's going to happen, you have a safety net. You have a degree. And that's just a little bit of a boost, if you think about it this way, than people who didn't have the opportunity to go to school. So stay your ass in school. This is a little bit of a shorter video because My previous videos have been really, really fucking long. Definitely, if you guys want more advice on topics like this, if you want me to bring you step through step how you're actually going to build your business, what you need, LLCs, how those work, definitely tell me. Go into this comment section, like let me know, because I got a lot to say about that. My business mind, the few stuff that I learned during business class, most of it I learned from ChatGPT. My business mind has an urge to tell you guys about all of that. But anyways, that is the end for this video. And if you're broke, you're not going to be broke for a long time. Trust me when I say this. Believe in God, believe in yourself, believe in what you're good at. You're going to get out of it. And I love you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'll see you in another video very soon.